Good morning, good people. My name is Dick Bailey, and on behalf of Pastor Teresa Soto, worship producer Vincent Rains, choir director Stefan Schneider, Board of Trustees Vice President Dan Wright, and affiliated community minister the Reverend Mary Foran, welcome to this worship service at the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. We ask that you please turn off your video while we light our chalice and candles. This will allow people to better see the words on the screen and follow along. Please note as well that we are recording this service, so if you don't want to be recorded, please keep your camera turned off. For best viewing experience, we recommend that you make certain that you have the up-to-date version of Zoom app on your computer. And now for a proper welcome and some reminders of coming events, here's the good Mr. Dan Wright.
I'd like to add my welcome and good morning. We are an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. You are welcome here. We invite you to fill out the guest connection card you will see in the chat. We want to be able to support your exploration of what's available in our community that interests you and how you might participate. Again, welcome. But before we begin our worship service, I have a few reminders of some really exciting things going on. The first of which is this afternoon at 4 p.m., the installation service for Pastor Teresa is an affair for the entire community. And honestly, it's not too late to reply. As for any churchwide event, email yesplease@uuoakland.org for Zoom details. Or if you also want information about foods we're sharing for the ritual, yes, sharing food, including the possibility of picking up a treat from church this afternoon, you may email office@uuoakland.org with your phone number. Let's be together in formalizing our shared ministry with Pastor Teresa. Second, there's a Board of Trustees meeting this coming Tuesday in 2 days. As usual, there's a 15-minute comment period before the meeting when the board welcomes questions and suggestions from the congregation. If you're not able to make it and you'd like to submit a question or suggestion, it will be read aloud during the comment period. You may email it to secretary@uuoakland.org. Third is the Iftar Under the Stars gathering. Our congregation's been invited to join East Bay housing organizations, Kalbu Mariam Women's Mosque, and other sponsors to an evening of community, food, music in honor of Ramadan. Iftar Under the Stars is an interfaith and COVID-safe event to be held at a site near the Coliseum. A registration link, event details, and information about donating can be found in the event description on the online calendar. Finally, next Sunday after worship service, everyone's invited to join the Journey Toward Wholeness anti-racism team to discuss dynamics of racial identity and practices to overcome barriers and oppression created by racism. Our guest facilitator will lead an exploration into what justice means to Indigenous people and to us as settlers on unceded Ohlone land. Please visit the online calendar for details about all of these happenings. For Zoom links to join church events, email yesplease@uuoakland.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Whenever we gather, we light a chalice to create a sacred space to share our thoughts, feelings, and hopes and aspirations. As Stefan Schneider lights the candles, please read along with me. We light this chalice today, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, in part a celebration of COVID-19 vaccines that bring us closer to being together in person. We commit to health and safety for everyone, leaving no one behind. We light this red candle in recognition of the Black Lives Matter movement and in recognition of the systemic racism that tries to deny the full humanity of Black people. We commit to dismantling it with daily action. The peace candle is a liturgical element to hold the grief of state violence against Black people and gun violence in schools and more. Today, we would like to lift up the name of Micaiah Bryant. Please say her name. In the words of white Unitarian minister Robert Fulgham, peace is not something you wish for. It is something you make, something you are, something you do, and something you give away. Thank you. We begin today with a reading from Richard P. Feynman, a renowned Jewish American theoretical physicist who shared the beauty of the universe through his work. I have a friend who's an artist and sometimes taken a view which I don't agree with very well. He'll hold up a flower and say, "Look how beautiful it is." And I'll agree. Then he says, "I, as an artist, can see how beautiful this is. But you, as a scientist, takes this all apart and it becomes a dull thing." And I think he's kind of nutty. First of all, the beauty that he sees is available to other people and to me too, I believe. Although I may not be quite as refined aesthetically as he is, I can appreciate the beauty of a flower. And at the same time, I see more about the flower than he does. I could imagine the cells in there, the complicated actions inside, which have also a beauty. I mean, it's not just beauty at this dimension, at 1 centimeter. There's also beauty at smaller dimensions, the inner structure, also the processes. The facts that the colors of the flower evolved in order to attract insects to pollinate it is interesting. It means that insects can see color. It adds a question. Does this aesthetic sense also exist in the lower forms? Why is this just aesthetic? There are all kinds of interesting questions through which the science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery and awe of a flower. It only adds, I don't understand how it subtracts. Poets say science takes away from the beauty of the stars, mere globs of gas atoms. Nothing is mere. I too can see the stars on a desert night and feel them. But do I see less or more? The vastness of the heavens stretches my imagination. Stuck on this carousel, my little eye can catch 1,000,000-year-old light, a vast pattern of which I am a part. What is the pattern, or the meaning, or why? It does not do harm to the mystery to know a little more about it. far more marvelous is the truth than any artists of the past imagined it. Why do the poets of the present not speak of it? What men are poets who can speak of Jupiter as if he were a man, but if he is an immense spinning sphere of methane and ammonia, must be silent. Richard P. Fineman, The Feynman Lectures on Physics, 1964. And what do you care what other people think? 1988. Here's a treat. Please listen to Stefan Schneider performing Let the Mystery Be.
Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worried about where they're going when the whole thing's done. No one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. I think I'll let the mystery be. Some say once you're gone forever. Some say that you're gonna come back. Some say you rest in the arms of the Savior in the sinful way you lack. Some say they're coming back for the garden, bunch of carrots and a little sweet pea. I think I'll let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worried about where they're going when the whole thing's done. No one knows for certain, but it's all the same to me. I think I'll let the mystery be. Some say they're going to a place called glory, and I ain't saying that ain't a fact. I've heard I'm on the road to purgatory, but I don't like the sound of that. I believe in love and I live my life accordingly. I choose to let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worried about where they're going when the whole thing's done. No one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. I think I'll let the mystery be. I think I'll let the mystery be.
Wow, thank you, Stefan. Now for everyone's favorite part, audience participation. Please unmute your microphones and greet your neighbors.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Morning, everybody.
Morning. Hiya.
This morning.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie. Hi, Penny.
Morning. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mari. Hi, Carol.
Hey,
Marcy.
Mary.
Hi,
Debbie.
Carol, Hester.
Hello.
Maria.
Good morning. Happy Installation Day. Hi, Mary.
Claudine. Hi,
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Claudine. Mary.
Hey, Debbie.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, Brian. Joaquin.
Hi, Beverly.
Morning, folks.
Hi, Marcy.
Hi, Noemi.
Morning.
Hi, John.
Greg.
Hi, Jeff.
Deb.
Hi, Penny.
Donna's
Hi,
gorgeous
Marilyn.
nails.
Hi, Debbie. Hi,
Hi, Mary. Hi, Beverly.
Janet.
Hi,
Claudine
Maria.
and Anthony. Hi, John.
Hi, Lila.
Hi, Lila.
Tara. Hi, Kathy.
Hi,
Too much for me.
Hey, Bill.
It's you, Brian. Dennis.
There.
Bill.
Mister. Wasn't that a great song?
Yeah.
Let the mystery be.
Woo!
That was great.
Thank you all. Now go ahead and mute your microphones, if you would. And listen to a story about giving up on giving up.
The thing that Dashrat could not do. A true story about a stonecutter on a mission. The main character of our story today is called Dashrath Manji. Dashrath lived in India. Here's a map. India is about 15 to 19 hours away from the west coast of the United States on an airplane, so pretty far. He lived up at the top, near a place called Gaya, and hills in a place called Bilal. This is a picture of Dashrath's family. The person in the white wrap is called Bhagirath. That is Dashrath's son. But both Dashrath and Dashrath's wife, Falguni, are missing from the picture. And now I'm going to tell you why. Dashrath was a very hard worker. Every day he would get up early and walk all the way over the mountain. On the other side was a village where he could plow fields for people, break rocks, help them build things, and each day earn a little bit of money to help feed his family. One day, he went to do the same thing as usual. His wife, Falguni, thought she could bring him some lunch. She brought it in a clay pot and went over the mountain. Unfortunately, Falguni fell, and she got very badly hurt, but she couldn't make it to the doctor in time for help because the mountain made the trip 55 miles long. So she died, and Dashrath was very sad and tried to think of what to do. Dashrath decided that he would dig a hole through the mountain for a path so that no one else would have to die because they couldn't make it to the hospital in time. Instead, they would have a shortcut. His first step was to sell 3 goats. That might seem like a strange solution when you need a road, but what he did was take the money and buy tools. And then Dashrath dug and dug and dug. It took him 22 years to dig a road to help people be safe and have jobs and go to school. Dashrath took 22 years to dig a road that was 360 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 25 feet deep. He became such an important figure that people call him the Jewel of India. And they even put him on this postage stamp. When they call him a jewel, they mean a very important and shiny helper and hero. The main way that Dashrath did something so important was to never, ever, ever quit. He gave up on quitting for 22 years, and the road is his evidence.
Wow. Prior to reflecting about the events of this past week, I would like to lift up a few people who do so very much to make worship wonderful here at First Oakland. First is Vincent Raines, who guides us through the technicalities of worship each week. Vincent spends lots of time up front in planning and preparation. Then he performs under pressure, real time, every Sunday. Thank you, Vincent. Another person who works tirelessly behind the scenes to keep us connected and keep us organized is Noemi de Guzman. Noemi is just the definition of competence and grace. The world is ever enriched by her presence. Thank you, Noemi. Finally, I would like to mention the Worship Associates program itself. Founded in the late 1980s by a collaboration between the professional ministers and the church's lay leaders on the Committee of Ministry, this program gave real life to the UU belief that every person has gifts which can benefit others. Each of us human type people is a minister. What a gift to congregations when ministers show the interest, take the time, and give up some of the control and perhaps even some of the ego to nurture and develop lay people as worship associates, lay people as their associate ministers. When you think about it, how many churches can you go to where that is the case? Many, perhaps all, only utilize lay members of the congregation in the most ancillary of roles during worship. This church, First Oakland, is a special place. Many thanks to our current worship associates. And if I leave somebody out, I'm sorry, I'm old. Many thanks to Corliss Smith, Tara Miller, Debbie Kaplan, Zia Swim, Dan Wright, Kevin Mann, Bill Blakely, and other good people for your extraordinary contributions to our worship services. Thank you, one and all. A couple of days ago, Pastor Teresa gave me a choice of 2 reflection topics that they thought would complement today's service. The first was, what have I learned over the past year? Unfortunately, they didn't realize that my short-term memory being what it is, it's far easier for me to recall 1965 than it is 2020. The second choice was easier and fittingly you. What questions do I have going forward? Having far more questions than answers, many prompted by the events of this last week, that seemed like a good fit. And what a week this has been. It got me thinking about such things as, what is justice really? Where is my compassion? Is the human condition just inexorably the struggle between the haves and the have-nots? Is it okay to celebrate a single victory in a seemingly endless war? Do I really believe in democracy? Who gives a 13-year-old kid access to a gun? Begging the question, how woke am I really? To what extent am I part of the problem still rather than part of the solution? I'm only promising questions today. We can help one another with the answers. In a sense, roughly a week was bracketed by 2 funerals. The first one was for a 99-year-old father of 4, a British prince who lived a privileged life, a man who gave up a promising career in the military to marry the future Queen of England. We call memorial services celebrations of life. And the one for Prince Philip was simple, if that term can legitimately be used for an event held in a cathedral. The music was especially glorious, but I suspect, like me, many people watched not to celebrate the life of the Duke of Edinburgh, but rather to see how William and Harry were getting along. The tabloidization of events and news and real stuff that matters, and the citizens of this country's insatiable appetite for same, does nothing to renew my faith in democracy. I must confess that I worry about folks whose primary source of news is gleaned at the checkout counter when it comes to determining the results of an election or sitting on a jury. On Thursday, there was another funeral, this one for a 20-year-old father of 1. Dante Wright was killed after being stopped initially for allegedly driving with expired license plate tags. Jonathan Mason, who mentored Wright in high school, said that he was a gregarious, popular student. And during mentoring sessions, when Mason asked Wright what he hoped to do with his life, Wright said, "I want to be an NBA player. I want to be a fashion designer. I want to be a business owner." And Mason responded by saying, "If you grow up, you can be whatever you want to be." I remember when I was just a little younger than Dante Wright, riding the back seat of the family car when my mother was driving down in Southern California in Pacific Beach. We were stopped at a red light, and when the light changed to green, my mom gunned it and turned left in front of the oncoming traffic that had been stopped on the other side of the light. She was immediately pulled over, and we thought, oh, we're in trouble now. When Mom gave the traffic cop her driver's license, he realized that they had gone to high school together. And they proceeded to reminisce for a good 15 minutes before he let her off with a warning. In all of the times that I have been stopped, my only thought has been, oh, how much is this going to cost me? First the ticket, then the insurance. Have I ever thought that it would cost me my life? Never, not once. Driving while white, driving while black. When Mom was pulled over, I was 17. When Dante Wright was pulled over, he was 20. We each had been told when growing up, you can be whatever you want to be. The difference being for me that the statement was preceded by when you grow up. And for him, it was preceded by if you grow up. And furthermore, in our country, with all the good things it has to offer, could each of us have realistically been whatever we wanted to be? Unlikely. I sure as heck had a lot more choices, a lot more opportunities than he ever would have. I'm 73. I've lived 53 more years than Dante Wright would get to see. His family will never know if he would have been whatever he wanted to be. In between funerals, there was the verdict. Guilty on all 3 counts. Was I surprised? Based upon the preponderance of questioners. And where there are questions, there is uncertainty, there is doubt. And it would only take one doubting, uncertain juror to cause a mistrial. I'm so grateful for the jury that came in to a unanimous verdict, and grateful as well for a 17-year-old girl who had the presence of mind to use her cell phone to record an incredibly tragic event. What has surprised me, however, is some of the reaction to the verdict. So many folks said, don't be happy, don't celebrate, this is a one-off. There's a lot more work to do, et cetera, et cetera. It reminds me of those coaches who don't let their team celebrate victories after they win a game because there are more games to play. The season isn't over. Well, you know what? In this struggle, The season may never be over. I think that we need to celebrate victories when we can. They've been too far and few between. Such celebration today doesn't necessarily lead to complacency tomorrow. It could just as easily energize a momentum for change. Whether or not this verdict was a one-off or a turning point is up to all of us, and those who succeed us, and those who succeed them. As Robert Fulghum said earlier, peace is not something you wish for. It is something you make, something you are, something you do, and something you give away. Finally, I was surprised by my lack of compassion. I learned about compassion, real compassion, in this church. It was modeled by Pat St. Onge and Sherry Larson Beville, each of whom had a close family member become a victim of violent crime, and each of whom accompanied the perpetrators of those acts of violence step by step, from arrest, through arraignment, through the trial, through the sentencing, through imprisonment. Pat St. Onge's daughter was sexually assaulted. Sherry Larson Beville's grandson was shot and killed. In their lay-led testimonies, they modeled their behavior from their hearts, compassion in all caps. Conversely, in all honesty, I have not been able to conjure up much compassion for Derek Chauvin or Kyle Rittenhouse or Tucker Carlson or the Oath Keepers. And that's just the beginning of the list of folks I frankly don't care for. It reminds me of the Christmas song, "Go Tell It on the Mountain that Jesus Christ is born," which contains the line, "For if I am a Christian, I am the least of all." This is where I feel like least like the Christian Universalist I espouse to be. The least compassionate, the least egalitarian, the least democratic. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. For if I am a UU, I am the least of all. Enough with the questions, the answers are in the conversation. May I just say in closing what I always say in closing? Yesterday's gone, tomorrow's uncertain. All we can really count on is today. And today is such a gift. Use it to tell the people that you love them. And each day, love one more. Thank you for your patience and for listening.
Now I have the great honor to introduce the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison, who's the settled minister with the Rogue Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Ashland, Oregon. Reverend Sean has attended First Unitarian Oakland, first during his time in seminary at Starr King School for the Ministry, and then again when during his sabbatical, he served as minister in residence at Starr King. A few other notable accomplishments. In 2004, Reverend Sean co-founded TRUST, the UU Organization of Transgender and Non-Binary Religious Professionals. He's also the author of Breaking and Blessing, the 2020 In Spirit meditation collection. He's a poet, an artist, a parent, and grandparent, and he is the partner of the Reverend Teresa Soto, our lead minister.
Before I begin, I just want to express my gratitude for your willingness to hear from me, especially on this day when you celebrate the ministry you share with my spouse, Reverend Teresa Soto. This is my chance to say thank you for that choice and for the ministry already done, through a pandemic no less, to bring the mission of First Unitarian Church of Oakland to life together. Today I want to share a few thoughts with you about one of the biggest challenges I see in Unitarian Universalism today. A few years ago, Mary Jaksch, on the blog Good Life Zen, wrote something that changed me and my ministry and inspired this sermon. She wrote, "I am an expert at many things, and I'm sick of it. Being an expert, that is, because being an expert is boring. That's why I started kite surfing a few months ago. I wanted to be a beginner again. Kite surfing looks easy until you try it. The challenge is to control both the kite and the board. A kite is unpredictable. One moment it's behaving, next it's totally out of control. Like the time when my kite took off and I was suddenly swept off my feet and into the air. I could see my instructor far below, his eyes agog and jaws agape. Then I crashed down into the sea. Next moment, I was being dragged backwards, underwater, at a high speed, like an out-of-control torpedo. Finally, I managed to come up for air. Rather alarming, but on the whole, great fun. I love being a beginner again. I love following impossible instructions. I love failing gloriously. I love Mary Jaksch's attitude. From the first sentence, I'm an expert at a lot of things and I hate it. I was hooked. More than hooked. I was challenged. We live in a culture that expects us to become an expert at one small part of being human. Borrowing from manufacturing, where one person makes the same widget or turns the same knob over and over again, our culture has become infatuated with specialization. We're asked to find a narrow area of knowledge, a skill set, to stick with for years, maybe forever, becoming the expert on those particular widgets. Or, like my former partner's brother, spending decades doing doctoral and postdoctoral work on the life cycle of the common tern, a familiar subspecies of seagull. Of course, specialization is not in itself the problem. It can afford us the opportunity to delve deeply into a subject and stick with it long term, learning things we could learn no other way. Going deep is not the problem. The problem is when we think that someone can know all there is to know about a topic or a species and declare them the expert. The problem is when we say, well, we've done the research and that's what we know, case closed. Scientists will tell you this is bad science. It limits curiosity and closes down the process of questioning and inquiry that is at the heart of science. But in a culture that is now quantifying the value of ideas and intellectual property, expertise has become a selling point, and definitive answers are the currency. Instead of thinking for ourselves, exploring, experimenting, and learning, we're told more and more to listen to experts who will tell us what we need and how to live. I'm with Mary Jaksch. Expertise is boring, whether I'm being asked to be the expert or to be quiet and listen to one. When I was a little kid and that commercial came on that said 9 out of 10 dentists recommend, I was always the kid who wanted to find that other doctor, to hear what they had to say. I wanted to keep curiosity alive. Rather than capitulating to experts, I wanted to find out for myself which toothpaste works best for me. But somewhere along the way, I lost that energy and curiosity and sort of just stopped noticing that every toothpaste was the one that the experts recommend. Every new drug is the one the experts say will fix all my problems, even with its long list of side effects. And every new product is the one that will make my life complete. But this is bigger than just being a savvy consumer. It's about refusing the messaging of perfectionism that says that somehow the experts and only the experts have it all together and know things I can never know. When an artist tells a scientist that they cannot fully understand a flower, or when a scientist tells an artist that the work of making beauty is less valuable than the work of the scientist, both are forms of fundamentalism. As Unitarian Universalists, we reject mastery as the basis for valuing people, and we are committed to responsibly searching for truth and meaning, which means we don't rely on anyone, expert or minister, to tell us the truth with a capital T. We can learn from science, artists, experts, and others, but then we have work to do, to measure, research, seek out more points of view, and keep measuring all that against our own experience, keeping in mind that there is always more to learn. To move from mastery to mystery is to cultivate a sense of myself as a learner, eternally open to surprise and wonder. It's about being glad there are things we don't know and that we may never know. It's a state of mind, an attitude of openness that sometimes I think of as being a student of mystery. It's also about not being ashamed to be a beginner, an amateur, a learner instead of an expert. For me, as in the amazing words of physicist Richard Feynman, mystery is the place where art and science meet. Mystery is the moment where no matter how much we know, we are aware of how much we do not. It's looking at the flower or the stars and seeing not only the amazing things we know about them and their place in the systems of life, but we're also aware of ourselves and the whole universe, the whole of time and history and love and loss and beauty. Where mastery implies that by dividing the world into ever smaller sections, we can somehow know the truth and perhaps even destroy all doubt or questions. Mystery invites us to see infinite connection, to set aside ego and accept that we are but one small part of something grand and beautiful. Mystery reminds us of our kinship, not only with other human beings, but with the rocks and the trees and the water and the stars. In all this vastness, we are somehow not alone. What does this mean for us in congregations, and particularly for you celebrating the launch of this new ministry, this partnership with a new minister, this moment when so much is happening so fast in this world? First, it makes clear how much we need each other. We need every person's perspective, story, understanding, and gifts. Rather than a hierarchy of value based on one's perceived standard as an expert on one thing or another, we're reminded that worth and dignity is inherent, built in, and not based on anything learned or accomplished or proven. That means our values, principles, and theology will not allow us to support systems or people that demonize or devalue others, no matter their excuse. Not only that, we must counter all systems that create inequalities that make it impossible for all people to thrive. Anything that tries to convince us that people of one gender, race, educational or financial status, ability, or any other characteristic are superior to others is something that we must actively resist. There is also another way that mystery inspires and sustains us. When we allow ourselves to be students of mystery, to let go of being experts and experience again the simple awe and wonder of being alive, we are often flooded with gratitude. The energy of that gratitude can empower us for service and re-energize us when we find ourselves exhausted. When we set ourselves to an impossible task, single-handedly digging a road through a mountain to stop anyone from suffering like we ourselves suffered, we partner with something bigger even than the fact that such a thing cannot be done. We partner with and participate in love that is bigger than anything we knew was possible. And when we offer that gift to each other, we can create communities that assure us that even if our success is not guaranteed, even if we fail each other, we will not be rejected. We will be welcomed back into covenant and community. This is why and how we overcome our fear and let go of this is how it's always been done, or we tried that once and it didn't work. And, not incidentally, this is how we put excitement and joy and fun back into our work together. Being an expert is boring. Being a community that keeps learning, keeps trying new things, that never declares that we know the capital T truth of what it means to be Unitarian Universalist in this time, in this world, that stays responsive to the needs, beauty, and ministry that is possible around us, not boring. As you install Reverend Teresa, may you affirm your commitment to being a community covenanted to being students of mystery, ever open to new ways to embody the mission of your congregation and the purpose of our shared Unitarian Universalism in this world. And may the ride be exciting, empowering, and fun. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
Good people, we call this moment in the service the invitation to generosity. We used to call it the sharing of responsibility. Isn't it interesting that we have all these euphemisms for show us your money? I used to joke that unlike movie theaters and ballparks and live performance venues where you have to pay to get in, church is built on faith. You don't have to pay to get in, but we do suggest that you might just possibly want to consider paying to get out. The many ways to give are in the chat. You know why we ask for money. So the staff can continue to get paid, and our programs and services can remain viable, and our building can be a healthy place to which to return when we're permitted to do so. But just as important, think about giving to fulfill your spiritual needs and realize your hopes and dreams for this community. Thank you for your generosity. In a moment, we will say together the Congregational Commitment, but first, here's a bit of trivia about that. It used to say we dedicate our lives and these are offerings. But some folks thought that that sounded like too great a commitment. It was reminiscent of, I have but one life to give to my church. And that would be going too far in the service of this community. So now, please join me in saying the following. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Thank you. Our closing hymn, an homage to the mystery, number 1003 in the Teal hymnal. Stefan leads us in Where Do We Come From?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle, a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle, a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Now, if you would please rise, face the back of the room, and join hands or touch a shoulder for the benediction. Go into the world with assurance, hope, and promise. May the grace of the truth rest upon you. The love of the source of life embrace you. And the transforming power of the breath of life help, strengthen, and surprise you this day and all your days. Amen.